The college football bowl season has finally arrived, and Orlando will play host to 3 big-time matchups in the coming weeks. It starts tomorrow night in the AutoNation Cure Bowl with our hometown UCF Knights taking on Arkansas State. Head coach Scott Frost looking for his first bowl win as a head coach. Miami and West Virginia meet up on December 28th in the Russell Athletic Bowl. And to cap it all off, Lamar Jackson and the Louisville Cardinals battle Leonard Fournette and the LSU Tigers in the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl.
And these two teams are top, basically 15 teams in the country, and that's what we want. I mean, I think that the momentum is just going to build until, the 31st, and then the place is just going to be electric that day. So it's going to be a lot of fun to be there.
Channel 9's Bowl Night on 9, presented by Florida Hospital, starts now.
It is the most intriguing bowl lineup Orlando has ever seen. The hometown school, the U, and a Heisman winner, and it's all right here on Bowl Night on 9.
Yeah, UCF and Arkansas State get us started tomorrow night. The Knights bowling after an 0-12 season a year ago, and the man responsible is first-year head coach Scott Frost.
Born the son of a coach and an Olympic track star, Frost went 6-6 in his first season as a head coach, despite injuries forcing him to start a freshman at quarterback and a schedule loaded with 4 teams that made appearances in the rankings this year. Frost, a man who swims with sharks and runs with the Bulls, said he likes to take risks on the field as well, and it paid off in year 1 with the Knights' 4th bowl appearance in 5 years.
I think it's exciting for our university to get back to a bowl game so fast. It's great that it's here in Orlando. We hoped last year was a blip on the radar for UCF. I think we're headed in the right direction right now. There's no doubt about that. We had a chance to win a bunch of games this year, and we won enough to get to a bowl game. But I expect our young players to enjoy this success and use this as a springboard to keep on improving. And we're on the right track, and we're going to keep taking steps in that direction.
Frost was pitched to the fans as an offensive mastermind, most of the former Nebraska quarterback's resume coming from that side of the ball, but the credit for this year's success should also go to the defense. Eric Shenander's group scored 5 defensive touchdowns. They're in the top 10 in the country in turnovers forced and had at least 5 sacks in 5 different games. They also have Shaquem Griffin, switching to linebacker before the season, was named the American Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Griffin and the rest of the Knights defense will be busy tomorrow facing an Arkansas State offense that scored at least 31 points in 5 of their last 6 games.
They're a very, very explosive team, and just with us coming in, we got to be prepared to have anything, because they have a lot of good plays, a lot of good players, and we got to be prepared to be ready for anything they throw at us. And they're a really good team. And then throughout the season, you can definitely tell that they're progressing with just not only with just running the ball and throwing it, but their blocking schemes, everything was just is up to beat. And it's going to be a good matchup, and I'm excited to see how it goes.
Every bowl game across the country helps out in the community, but the Cure Bowl is the first to put the cause right there in the name. They donated more than $1 million to the Breast Cancer Research Foundation last year. It's a cause that is near and dear to the heart of UCF running backs coach Ryan Held. Held's mother, Teresa, fought and beat breast cancer. She recently celebrated a major milestone, 1 year cancer-free. Held, who was teammates with Scott Frost at Nebraska in the late 90s, is a glass-half-full guy. He leads the team in pregame chants and says his enthusiasm and positivity helped him help his mother get through her battle.
Obviously, this game means a lot more, to me personally, just because of the cause, the breast cancer research money that can be accumulated from this game. My mother was able to get a drug back that was researched and, made in 1998, and that's what basically saved her life, because if they didn't have the drug, that she would have been in real big trouble. So, obviously, anytime there can be something, a great cause like this, but obviously it hits close to home, and so it means a little bit more to me personally to be in this game.
Meanwhile, at the UCF College of Medicine, Dr. Annette Khalid is on the front lines in the fight against breast cancer. The Cure Bowl is helping to fund her research. It's the only bowl game in America that donates all of its proceeds to charity. The Breast Cancer Research Fund has split that money among 5 researchers. Dr. Khalid received $250,000 from last year's game, helping her find ways to stop cancer cells from spreading to vital organs. She recently sat down with her own Greg Warmoth and talked about the impact of the funds generated.
I can train the next generation of scientists in my lab. So it's not just that we're going to help people with, new therapies and help people who have cancer. We're training that next generation who's going to carry on for us.
And people that are watching will live longer because of this football game.
Yes, they will, because they're directly impacting upon our ability to do the research and find these new treatments.
Famed theoretical physicist Stephen Hawking believes in the possibility of multiple universes, and somewhere in that multiverse, academic success is more important than wins. And according to a recent study of graduation rates, UCF is in the college football playoffs. 91% of the young men running out of this tunnel will someday also walk across this stage. That's the Knight's current graduation success rate for its football team, measured by the NCAA and tracked in a study by UCF's Institute for Diversity and Ethics in Sport.
We like, first of all, for us to understand, for the athletic departments to understand, as well as the public, whether or not the school that they root for is delivering on the promise that when you bring a student athlete to your campus, he or she is going to get an education.
Dr. Richard Lapchick heads the study each year, says this is the highest UCF has ever been on the list, tied for 4th with Wake Forest, behind only Stanford, Northwestern, and South Carolina.
10 years ago, they would have been at the bottom of the list. They wouldn't have been anywhere near the top 4 or the top 10 or the top 15. They would have been literally at the bottom of the list when we played in our first bowl game.
When you include all student athletes, UCF is at 93%, ranked #1 in the country among public schools. Around the rest of the state, Miami's football GSR is close to UCF at 86%. Everyone else hovering between 77 and 82. So all 5 of Florida's bowl schools are in the top half of the rankings. According to the study, the overall graduation success rates for bowl schools is up 2% from last year. But one disturbing trend, the rate for African-American student athletes is 68%. That's 19% behind the rate for white students. Christian?
Back on the field, UCF's journey from 0-12 to 6-6 and bowl eligibility was not an easy one. But the difficulty of that journey pales in comparison to that of Knights defensive lineman Rory Coleman. Sergeant Rory Coleman's scars serve as a daily reminder of his journey from the football field to the battlefield, back to the gridiron.
You can love this game, and this game can be a vehicle to do the things you want to do, but you have to have a foundation as a human being first. You can't just put that off to the side and say, I'll get to it later.
That advice came from Coleman's grandfather, Bill Coleman, an Army veteran who parachuted into France on D-Day. So after Rory's final game at Lake Brantley, he decided to follow in his grandfather's footsteps and enrolled in the Army as a medic.
I wanted to help other people. I didn't necessarily want to, like I said, do the fighting. Yeah. And, I played offensive line in high school, so I was already in that mindset, protect the quarterback, protect the quarterback. And for me, that kind of translated in protect the guy to my left and my right.
Little did Coleman know, the soldier he would have to protect was himself. 2 weeks before wrapping up a year-long deployment in Afghanistan, his counter-IED platoon ran into trouble.
We had been fighting for a good bit of the later in the day, and we'd kind of pushed these guys back, and there'd been a lull in the action, but we actually stumbled upon their hiding spot, which was in a basement. So there was about 3 of them in the basement, and then one came running out, and then he had dropped the grenade next to him. It went off, and I was just laying on the ground like, okay, I'm okay. And I go to sit up, I can't. I go to lean over, push off with my hand, I can't. And I said, oh boy, I might be in trouble. And then that's when the blood started coming down from my forehead, and I said, all right, I'm definitely in trouble.
With major injuries all over his body, Coleman walked a fellow soldier through the process of treating his wounds.
It's literally from head to toe. So there's metal in the left big toe, all down the left foot, cracked the kneecap in half right here, and then the tibia, I got chunks out of the right thigh, fractured the femur, hit the stomach, which punctured some intestines, and hit the bicep, hit the shoulder, fractured the right ring finger, shredded up my right forearm right here. I did take one little piece to the head, and that's where it caused my epidural brain bleed.
Coleman spent 9 days in an induced coma and eventually moved to San Antonio to begin a long, grueling recovery process.
Definitely the most, mentally draining, because you don't know, because you're going to recover. You've got the greatest facilities in the world at your disposal to get better through the people that were working there, to the equipment they were using, to the techniques they were using. It was all, best of the best. And so you knew that these people were here to help, but you just didn't know how far you're going to go until the recovery was done.
It took Coleman nearly a year to learn how to walk again, but he never lost his desire to return to football. And earlier this year, after enrolling at UCF, Coleman attended an open tryout in front of the Knights' new coaching staff.
He was one that stood out, just mostly on size and athletic ability and things like that. And then kind of started getting to talk to him, learn a little bit of his background, and you really blew your socks off. Hey, here's a guy that's been through so much and done so much for our country already, and he wants to come out here and work with these guys.
Coach Frost, he brought me on board, and I can't be more grateful that he provided me this opportunity. So I'm going to take this opportunity, I'm going to run with it, and do my best to make this team, and make these guys better as a whole.
Leadership and maturity isn't the only thing Coleman brought to the UCF football team. The last thing the Knights do before they leave the locker room and head to the field is a ritual that Coleman has brought with him from the Army.
When you yell from the deepest part of you and you're screaming as loud as you can, your body has a natural reaction, but to release some endorphins, and it gets you just fired up and mentally focused.
Following that battle cry, Scott Frost selected Coleman to lead the team onto the field in a celebration of Veterans Day.
What an incredible experience it is, here at UCF to, go run out with that flag and lead these awesome guys onto the field.
Coleman appeared in one game this year and picked up his first collegiate tackle. Off the field, he's majoring in psychology and says he hopes to continue serving his country in the future as part of a federal agency.
And good luck to him. Coming up, the youngest Heisman Trophy winner in history, returning to the Citrus Bowl, where he also played his final high school game. Plus, Florida Citrus Sports CEO Steve Hogan goes all in on Buffalo Wild Wings and the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl. Welcome back to Bowl Night on 9. Orlando's premier game, the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl, will be played 26 hours earlier than usual.
Yeah, kickoff between LSU and Louisville set for New Year's Eve at 11 a.m. And you can see it right here on Channel 9. Of course, set your alarm clocks. If you're headed out, you'll get to see two of the best players in college football. LSU's Leonard Fournette has been banged up in 2016, but will still likely be the first running back off the board in April's NFL draft. On the other side, Louisville's Lamar Jackson is your 2016 Heisman Trophy winner. The Cardinals signal caller accounted for 51 total touchdowns and became the first player in college football history to pass for more than 3,300 yards and rush for 1,500 more. When you look back at what you did this year, numbers, does it ever surprise you?
If anything, I try to increase the numbers. I don't try to sit there and be like, okay, I did this and that. I just try to increase everything, be better and try to perfect my craft. Yeah.
The man behind the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl and so many other big-time football games in Orlando is Florida Citrus Sports CEO Steve Hogan.
And we found out the man can put back some wings.
All right, three guys talking college football over a bunch of wings. We got honey barbecue, we've got buffalo wings, of course, and some potato wedges, and then we've got some really spicy wings. We've got a treat for you a little bit later for that, Steve, but we just want to talk about, we're here, obviously, for the Buffalo Wild Wings Bowl, and a great matchup. You've got the Heisman Trophy winner, you've got LSU back in the game, two ranked teams. How pleased with it were you when you were able to announce that?
You're always looking to see where the country kind of places your games in terms of national interest, and the fact that both of them continue to be in the top 10 and the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl on ABC is viewed as pretty much a top 5 game universally, and that's the way we drew it up.
Lamar Jackson, the Heisman Trophy winner, against Leonard Fournette, the LSU running back who many think is maybe one of the best athletes in the country. That lines up pretty nicely for you.
Those two guys on the field together, I think, is what excites so many people, and universally, I mean, these two teams are top, basically 15 teams in the country, and that's what we want. I mean, I think that the momentum is just going to build until, the 31st, and then the place is just going to be electric that day, so it's going to be a lot of fun to be there.
As you just mentioned, the game is on the 31st instead of its traditional New Year's Day slot. What changes does that bring for your team in putting this game together and just planning for this?
I've been there 21 years now. I think it's my 21st year. This will be the first time I remember being able to do something else on New Year's Eve. So for us, it's new. I think for the fans to think that you'll get done with that game, be able to enjoy the rest of the playoff day throughout the schedule, and go and enjoy and kick off your new year. So it's going to be a lot of fun. 11 a.m. pretty early, though.
Right. The Russell Athletic Bowl, your other bowl game, an in-state team in Miami, and then maybe one of the most passionate fan bases anywhere in West Virginia. How did you come to that matchup?
In our Big 12 relationship, we pick very high, which is intentional. And you look at the teams we've been getting. Last year was a top 15 matchup. We had Oklahoma the year before. Now you get a very successful West Virginia team's got a chance to win 11 games. If they win their bowl game, they're ranked, I think, number 13 or somewhere in that range in the country. Pretty exciting. So Mark Richt now introduced at Miami. A lot of passion around his first year. He's been fantastic in the years that we've had him personally in our bowl games, but winning 4 straight to close out the season, an 8-win season. Brad Kaya, you got to like the way that, the country, I think, has been pretty much predicting that. I think it's a 2.5-point spread. That's a fantastic game that I think is going to sneak up on a lot of people.
Between the ACC and SEC tie-ins, you always get matchups that seem to appeal to local fans in these games, but then you also have the Pro Bowl coming up. We have high school games there every year. The Citrus Bowl in general is continuing to add more and more to the sports environment in Florida. Where can it go from here?
Well, it's kind of hard. Camping World Stadium has probably been the most successful season in the history of the facility, really. I mean, if you look at it. I don't know. I guess you want to keep it going more so than you're trying to top what's going on. So keeping that business there, not every year is going to have that kind of volume, but I think that's the expectation, right? That you're going to have that many nationally relevant events.
You mentioned community. That is a big part of the bowl games, is giving back to the community, and right around Camping World Stadium, that's something that these bowl games are able to do.
I'm glad you mentioned it. Lift Orlando, something near and dear to our heart. It's part of the DNA of the building. To think that facility, if the success story on your airwaves in 5 or 10 years is talking about what a community did, what residents did in partnership with business leaders, fueled by a successful sports venue, and the transformation that's going to occur in health and wellness, education, jobs, job training, and housing, those 4 pillar things that can make a healthy community fueled by sports, is a story I think not yet written in the country that'll be a new model for how to do these things. So I would encourage people. We're already investing heavily in partnership with the College Football Playoff in the schools in the 32805 zip code, but the rest I think will be a story we'll all write together in this community for sure.
Now, last year, Orlando's 3 bowl games had a combined attendance of 122,000. But with UCF, Miami, and the Citrus Bowl matchup, Hogan believes there's a good chance they might beat that number this year. We'll be right back.
UCF has the shortest trip of any team for this year's bowl games, but Florida and Florida State won't be racking up too many frequent flyer miles this holiday season.
They're both staying in state. The Gators are headed to Tampa, while Florida State will be in Miami for the Orange Bowl. This is the 5th straight year the Noles will be appearing in either a BCS Bowl, the playoffs, or a New Year's Six bowl game. They'll face 6th-ranked Michigan on December 30th. FSU stumbled early in the season with losses to Louisville and North Carolina, but they finished strong, winning their last 4 by an average of 22 points per game. The showdown with the Wolverines is also expected to be the final game for FSU running back Dalvin Cook. In just 3 years, Cook has rewritten the Seminoles record books. He is the program's all-time rushing and rushing touchdowns leader.
As for the Gators, they'll face Iowa in the Outback Bowl on January 2nd. This will be the 3rd time these 2 teams have met in the Outback Bowl, with the Gators and Hawkeyes splitting the previous 2. Florida has lived off their defense this year, ranking 6th nationally in total defense, but we'll have a new man in charge on that side of the ball for the bowl game. Defensive coordinator Jeff Collins recently took the head coaching job at Temple. As for the offense, Jim McElwain is going to stick with senior Austin Appleby at quarterback versus looking to the future and burning the red shirt of Felipe Franks or Kyle Trask.
Austin's done a good job. He's studied the plan. Obviously, there's some throws that he'd like to have back, but at the same time, this late in the year, he deserves it, and you know what? I'm excited for him to go play in this game. Another opportunity, for him to help this team win.
And you can see the Outback Bowl January 2nd between Florida and Iowa right here on Channel 9. Kickoff is set for 1 o'clock.
Coming up, we make Florida Citrus Sports CEO Steve Hogan sweat it out with some Citrus Bowl trivia. Welcome back. Before we go, how about a little trivia?
Yeah, let's head back to Buffalo Wild Wings to see how well Steve Hogan knows his bowl game.
Yeah, now it's time to get to the fun. We've got 3 trivia questions for you and 3 of their newest flavor. It's called Havana Heat, limited time only. We're going to see if you can get all 3 questions right. If you get them all wrong, you have to eat all 3. If you get them right, Christian and I have to eat for the ones you get right. I think that's pretty self-explanatory there. Christian, shoot.
All right, we'll kick off. We mentioned Lamar Jackson, the Heisman Trophy winner, playing on New Year's Eve in the Buffalo Wild Wings Citrus Bowl. Who are the 2 other players that played in the Citrus Bowl the year they won the Heisman Trophy?
So I know that we've had 6 overall. So as you think about the 3 now with Lamar, so Lamar being 1, the other 2 be my first year at the bowl game in 1995, where Eddie George played Peyton Manning. So he's one of them.
I thought that would be the one you didn't get, so I'm not feeling so confident now.
So I feel good. And then the other, I think, is pretty obvious to people in this market, but Tim Tebow playing Michigan in the bowl game there, which was an unbelievable shootout that year. But those would have been the other 2.
All right. Well, Havana Heat for me, I guess it is.
Maybe that was too easy. We're gonna go farther back in the history now. Citrus Bowl has been around since the 1946 season. January 1st, 1947, the first game. Who were the 2 teams that played?
I mean, who could forget? I mean, they're really traditional powerhouses in the football world. Catawba and Maryville played in the 1947 game, and that was our first ever Citrus Bowl. Tangerine Bowl at the time.
Gets that one, too. And Catawba won the first 2.
In the history of the Citrus Bowl, there was one game that wasn't played in Orlando. What year and where was it?
Where is easy. Gainesville took it to Florida Field. It was due to some construction in the stadium, and I think it was 1977.
1973. Oh, there it is.
The close enough category, right, guys?
No, they're not. It's actually a very good citrus, not super spicy. We didn't do the
ultra mega. Yeah, look at this water close by. All right.
Enjoy.
Thanks, dude.
Actually, really good.
I think next year we need harder questions.
Yeah, and hotter wings, but the Havana Heat, that was really good.
Really good.
Just a reminder, we will have complete coverage of all 3 of Orlando's bowl games throughout the next few weeks right here on Channel 9 and also over on TV 27.
Good night. Enjoy the football.